Kael Morgan, 47, a former ESA agent, lived in seclusion in a forgotten village on the slopes of the Taurus Mountains in Turkey. Since the failed mission in 2015, he had withdrawn from the world. Astraeus 9, its most ambitious project, an experimental satellite designed to scan for microthermal anomalies in the Earth's surface, had mysteriously disappeared over the Karakum desert in Turkmenistan. Official records stated that the satellite had suffered an electrical failure. However, Kael knew that this was untrue. The last images captured showed a perfectly symmetrical hexagonal shadow, frozen on the dunes, followed by a black screen and a complete absence of signal, as if the surrounding space itself had been erased. Since then, Kael has become a shadow of his former self. Silent, sunken eyes, long beard, unkempt appearance. He lived among old radios, tube monitors, piles of notes, books on quantum physics and theories discarded by modern scientists. He slept in irregular shifts and always had a notebook by his bedside in which he scribbled orbital patterns, forgotten coordinates, and fragments of dreams he couldn't decipher. His neighbors called him the man who talks to space. But Kael didn't respond. He waited. He waited for a sign, an echo, a hint that his madness had some basis in reality. On a cold January night, the wind cut through the mountains like a knife. While the world slept, Kael was awakened by the sound of footsteps on his porch. When he opened the door, there was no one there, just a black envelope with an analog chip wrapped in aluminum foil. The note read, Karakum, Sector D11. He's back. Kael connected the chip to one of his old CRT monitors. The grainy image flickered, an endless field of dunes. In the center, a rhythmic blue pulsation, as if something were breathing beneath the earth. The pulses formed a hexagonal pattern. After a minute, a shrill sound filled the room, an inaudible, visceral frequency, and the image disappeared. Kael remained motionless. For the first time in years, he felt something other than guilt, a calling. The desert was calling him back. For days, Kael tried to ignore what he had seen. He tried to rationalize it, but the sound remained in his mind. The desert invaded his dreams. He woke up with the feeling of sand between his teeth. The blue pulse appeared on the walls, in the shadows, in his breath. He began to record his dreams again. A dome under the sand, faceless people, voices speaking in inverted frequencies. He decides to seek out the only person he still trusts, Dr. Leila Damar, a former colleague on the mission, now a professor at Ankara University, specializing in orbital cryptography and retired Soviet satellites. When she sees him, Leila is startled.
Kael, are you alive?
He shows her the chip. Leila analyzes it and connects it to the spectral decoder. The same image, the same blue pulse. But now, Leila is able to extract data.
It's not just a frequency. It's a language. a binary pattern, a key, Kael. Something or someone trying to communicate. And this here.
She points to a piece of code. The date, 1983. A fragment of a Soviet transmission that had been considered lost during the Cold War.
That was broadcast from inside the Karakum, said Layla. And there's more.
Layla gives Kael an old Soviet map with red markings. One of the points, scribbled by hand, indicated no man's land, prohibited.
This doesn't show up on any modern satellite. It's as if it had been deliberately erased from the planet.
Layla warns, if you go, proceed with caution, and never ignore the wind. A mixture of curiosity and growing fear, Kael leaves for Ashgabat, Turkmenistan. He buys equipment, an analog receiver, lithium batteries, solar panels, thermal clothing, chemical protection suits, a redundant location system, and a sealed diary where he will record every detail of the mission. A mixture of curiosity and growing fear. Hire a local guide, Nuri, 25, nomad, raised on the edge of the desert. Nuri's eyes betrayed his experience with the inexplicable. The young man had ancient tattoos on his arm, protective symbols used by ancestral caravans. The journey is brutal. 4 days of crossing. Extreme heat during the day, bitter cold at night. The clocks moved forward and backward on their own. Dead animals in the distance. Traces that appeared and disappeared. Voices at night. Metallic sounds at dusk. The sky changed color at certain times. Twinkles that did not belong to stars. The compass spun in cycles, as if dancing. In Sector D11, finally, the receiver begins to squeak. Frequency stable. The compass spins endlessly. The air becomes denser. The ground vibrates slightly. And then they see it. A metal blade emerges from the sand. Hexagons in relief. A faint blue pulse. Symbols impossible to identify. Kael touches it. The metal is cold. The ground shakes. Nuri senses something and backs away. At night, he disappears. Kael wakes up and finds only the guide's boots ranged symmetrically beside the extinguished campfire. The radio turns on by itself. The Astraeus 9 recording echoes. Are you still watching? Alone, Kael begins to dig. He finds a crack camouflaged under petrified sand. Inside, a metal staircase leads to an underground structure made of military concrete and rusted metal. He descends, walls with inscriptions in Russian, French, and an unknown language. Warnings, reports, numbers, diagrams describing distortions in time-space, cycles that restarted. In the central room, a hexagonal chamber houses a crystal terminal. When connected to the spectral translator, the entire environment vibrates. A metallic voice fills the air.
Kael Morgan, you're back. The maps don't work here. The weather is unstable.
Who are you?
I am not an entity. I am a stored memory. This is the fold. A necessary error in the fabric of reality, a margin between the real and the permissible.
The structure begins to creak, leaks, the floor shakes, the desert blows. Kael records everything. But when he tries to climb up, the steps are covered with something that is not sand. It is dark, malleable matter that pulsates, vibrations that penetrate his bones, murmurs on the walls. Kael rushes toward a side exit. He enters an alternate tunnel. Lights fail. A shadow pursues him, breathing in the dark. He runs. Silence. The ground gives way. Total darkness. As he falls, he hears one last sentence.
You weren't the first, nor will you be the last. 2 weeks later, nomads find Kael unconscious on the edge of the Kazakh border. No documents, no equipment, just a crumpled piece of paper with coordinates. 43.9124 degrees north, 65.2473 degrees east, and a small burnt receiver. On his skin, there were hexagon-shaped marks.
Layla receives a package. Inside, Kael's receiver, with a note. The door is open, but not for long. When she tracks the coordinates, she sees something impossible. In the middle of an ancient dry lake, a hexagonal pattern of moving blue light.
Kael was never seen again.
Not everything that disappears is lost. Some places don't forget. They wait. They wait for the return of those who dared to see what no one else saw. And sometimes they leave the door open, just enough for someone to walk through, but never to return the same.
What if what Kael found in that desert wasn't the end, but just the beginning? What if the world we know is only the surface, and the real world is hidden, waiting for those who dare to dig deeper? Do you believe that places can hold memories? Have you ever had the feeling that you were being watched by something that shouldn't be there? If this story moved you, if it made you question what is real and what is possible, leave your like. It helps bring this content to more people who, like you, feel that there is something more out there. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, because this is just one of many lost coordinates that we will still explore. And tell me here in the comments, would you go back to the desert, or would you accept the silence of the earth as an answer? See you in the next episode of Lost Coordinates.